Imagine this: a faceless data broker in a nondescript office park. Servers glowing, contracts moving across desks. What's for sale? Not cars, not corn, not crude oil. It's you. Your clinic visits, your credit history, your phone's location trails, day after day, place after place. Even the genomic markers coded in your DNA, bundled into bulk data sets and shipped to whoever pays. For years, it was a privacy headache. But in 2025, the Department of Justice relabeled it a national security threat. And this October, the first enforcement wave began. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome to Midweek Sit Rep, your bi-weekly briefing on what's happening in the world of national security. My name is Jerry Fowler, and I'm your host. Every other week, I give you the context you need to see what's really going on, so you can stay mission focused. Now, back in episode 2, we talked about the bulk data rule. Well, here we are again. We're going to talk about how it came to be, why the US government says your data is a security risk, what's happened since July 8th, and what this October enforcement phase means going forward. And as always, we'll bring you back to why it matters for you. Let's go. The bulk data rule didn't come out of nowhere. It was born from Executive Order 14117, signed February 2024 by President Biden. After years of concern about foreign access to America's most sensitive information, the executive took action. The Department of Justice took the mandate, finalized the rule in late 2024, and published it in January 2025. It went live on April 8th. Companies had a 90-day grace period to show good faith compliance. That ended on July 8th. And now, here in October, the training wheels are off. Due diligence, monitoring, and record keeping, they're not optional, they're mandatory. So what does this rule actually do? It says if you're handling bulk sensitive data, like health records, precise geolocation, financial transactions, or even genomic sequences, to a country of concern or a company they control, that's no longer just a privacy issue. It's a national security transaction. Think CFIUS meets export controls, but for the flow of data. And that's where we are. So you may be wondering, why such a sweeping rule? Well, because adversaries don't always need to hack into government servers or run covert spy rings. Sometimes they can just swipe a credit card and buy what they need. Executive Order 14117 spelled it out. In the wrong hands, bulk data can be weaponized. It can be used to track Americans' movements, intimidate dissidents, blackmail public officials, train AI models, or even refine military targeting systems. We're not talking about trivia. This isn't your Spotify playlist. It's location trails from your phone, medical records from your clinic, transactions from your bank, even the genetic code written in your DNA. For an adversary, that's not data. It's a dossier. The raw materials for surveillance, coercion, and influence. Now back to the program. April flipped the switch. The rule officially took effect on April 8th, 2025. But for the first 90 days, the Department of Justice built in a grace period. That meant if companies could show that they were making a good faith effort, mapping their data, screening vendors, updating contracts, enforcement would be light. It was essentially, get your house in order before we come knocking. That grace period ended July 8th. Since then, companies haven't been off the hook. They've been in the prep window. July through October has been about standing up compliance programs, designing due diligence checklists for data transactions, running counterparty screenings to flag covered persons, drafting contracts with onward transfer bans and audit rights, putting in place record-keeping systems to show the data trail if the Department of Justice asks. Now October. This is where the training wheels come off. Companies are expected to actually prove compliance. Not promises, not plans, evidence. The Department of Justice wants to see who your counterparties are, where your data flows, what controls you've built to stop it from ending up in countries of concern. It's the difference between theory and practice, between drafting a policy and living it day to day. October is when we're working on it turns into show me the receipts. Now, I think it's natural if you have some questions. Like, is the Department of Justice contacting companies? Well, not yet. There's no broad outreach program yet. The Department of Justice isn't cold calling every data broker or app developer. But the Department of Justice has the authority to initiate investigations, issue subpoenas, and bring enforcement actions if it believes a transaction violates this rule. Early signals suggest that they're likely target obvious risk areas, such as data brokers, genomic services, location data providers, and cloud AI model training partnerships with foreign ties. Another question you may have, is there mandatory reporting? There's no standing file a notice requirement like you would have with CFIUS or export licensing. Instead, the rule creates prohibitions and restrictions. If you engage in a covered transaction with a country of concern, think China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, etc. Without meeting the requirements, you're in violation. Companies aren't required to send in filings, but they are required to keep records for at least 5 years to demonstrate compliance if asked. DOJ can demand those records at any time. Another question you may have is, how would DOJ know if a company is out of compliance? Well, there's a few answers there. Market intelligence. DOJ will monitor public transactions, contracts, and corporate disclosures. There's also whistleblowers and competitors. Just like sanctions and export controls, rivals or insiders often flag the problems. There's intelligence sources. Remember, this is national security driven. Classified collection may inform who DOJ targets. There's also audits and enforcement sweeps. DOJ can subpoena records and conduct investigations, especially if a company is in a high-risk sector. So the October moment isn't every company gets a knock on the door. It's if DOJ comes looking, you'd better have your compliance house in order. So what happened after the grace period closed on July 8th? In-house lawyers and compliance officers didn't wait for DOJ to come knocking. They got busy. Law firms have been warning clients. The rule is live. The grace period is over. And October brings new obligations. Since then, companies have been under pressure to map their data against DOJ's thresholds. 1,000 devices for geolocation, 10,000 people for health or financial data, 100 individuals for genomic data. Those numbers are low, and many companies hit them faster than they expect. Also to screen counterparties for hidden ownership or links to countries of concern, something most privacy programs never had to do before. Also rewrite contracts to add audit rights, onward transfer bans, and escape clauses if a deal suddenly becomes high risk. Lastly, stand up technical controls like geofencing, tokenization, or localization to prove sensitive data isn't leaving safe territory. Now, not every company is in panic mode, but across the privacy and tech sector, the guidance has been clear. If you touch bulk data, you need a defensible compliance story, and you need it now. Every data deal now needs a KYC for counterparties, and a KYT, know your transfers. So what happens now? The Department of Justice has been clear. Bulk data in foreign hands is an unusual and extraordinary threat. Now that language isn't casual. It's the legal trigger for national emergency powers, which means the first enforcement actions won't be random. They'll be deliberate, high visibility cases designed to set the tone. And who are the likeliest targets? Probably data brokers quietly selling massive data sets with foreign ties, cloud and analytics providers that process U.S. information for entities linked to countries of concern, or apps that funnel sensitive user data overseas under the radar. And don't expect it to stop at obvious sales. Even so-called de-identified data sets, the kind marketed as safe, are on the table if they can be re-identified at scale. The message is clear. The Department of Justice doesn't just want compliance paperwork. It wants to change behavior across the industry. The first cases won't just punish, they'll send a message. Data is infrastructure. So what does all of this mean if you're running a business? Well, here's a 5-step playbook. Step 1, inventory and thresholds. Know what you hold, know where it lives, and know whether you cross DOJ's bulk threshold. Don't assume you're too small. Just 1,000 devices worth of location data or 100 genomic samples is enough. That'll trigger the rule. Treat this like export classification. If you don't know your numbers, you're already at risk. Step 2, counterparty screening. It's not enough to know who signs the contract. Trace the ownership, trace the funding, and processing locations. That shell company in Delaware might point back to Beijing or Moscow. If you don't peel back the layers, don't worry, the Department of Justice will. Step 3, contract controls. Onward transfer bans, sub-processor transparency, audit rights. These aren't boilerplate anymore. They're survival terms. If your partners can quietly pass data downstream, your compliance program collapses. Step 4, technical guardrails. This is where the engineers earn their keep. Encryption at rest and in use. Geofencing to keep data safe in jurisdictions. Tokenization to limit exposure. And logs that prove exactly who accessed what and when. And finally, step 5, board level reporting. This can't stay buried in the privacy team. Bulk data is now a national security compliance issue. That means dashboards, regular testing, and a seat at the boardroom table, just like sanctions, export controls, and CFIUS. The message is simple. Treat data like a controlled technology. If you wouldn't ship a dual-use chip without paperwork, don't ship bulk data without paperwork. And for the everyday listener, why should you care? Well, because this rule isn't about cookie pop-ups or spam calls. It's about you. And whether the most personal details of your life can be quietly packaged and shipped overseas. Your location trails that show where you sleep, where you work, and where you worship. Your health records that reveal vulnerabilities. Your financial history that maps your stability. Even the genetic code that makes you, you. In bulk, this becomes something you never agreed to. A ghost dossier. A file that can be bought, sold, and weaponized without you ever knowing it existed. That's why the Department of Justice stepped in, because adversaries don't need to hack you if they can just buy you. And once they have enough of us, they can target entire communities, manipulate behavior at scale, or undermine national security. So what do we know? April turned on the rule. July ended the grace. And October begins the proof. And the message is clear. Data is no longer just a commodity. It's a national security asset. And if you collect, process, or sell it at scale, the U.S. government has one question. Who's on the other end of the deal? Because in 2025, bulk data isn't personal. It's strategic. That's it for today's Midweek Sit Rep. If this episode got you thinking, don't let the conversation stop here. Head over to the Insider Brief on Substack and subscribe. It's where we dig deeper, answer your questions, and preview what's next. We're also on YouTube, where you'll find short clips, interviews, and bonus content. Make sure to subscribe there if you haven't already. And if you want to support the show, go to everythingisnationalsecurity.com and check out the merch. Every shirt and hat helps keep Midweek Sit Rep independent and growing. Subscribe, share, and stay sharp. I'm Jerry Fowler, and remember, everything is national security. See you next time. Midweek Sit Rep with Jerry Fowler is an independent production of OpScent Media Group, LLC. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, financial, or professional advice. Listeners should consult with a qualified professional before making any decisions based upon the content discussed. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host, Jerry Fowler, and any guest, and do not reflect the official policy, position, or endorsement of any current or former employer, client, government agency, military organization, educational institution, or any other entity for which the host, Jerry Fowler, may be affiliated. Mention of a company, product, or service does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation. Any references are provided for informational purposes only. This podcast does not disclose any classified, proprietary, or confidential information. All discussions are based upon publicly available information and personal expertise. Everything's national security. OpScent Media Group, LLC.